Greetings this evening of your time. How are you? Thank you very much. Allow me to begin this interaction with the entitlement part of me. Allow us to begin. Very often, when individuals begin to explore expanding their consciousness, begin to explore the idea that they just may deserve to create a life with integrity according to their preference, according to their excitement, many issues very often will rise to the surface. These issues give you the opportunity to look at things that perhaps you have stored in your unconscious. The looking at these things obviously then makes it quite conscious, and this allows you to then change it. One of the ideas we wish to highlight this evening is something that comes up again when you do begin to expand, when you do begin to search, when you do begin to consciously begin to define yourself. And this takes the form, very often, of seemingly conflicting bits or parts of you. Very often individuals will simply say, well, part of me believes this, perhaps the thing that you prefer to believe, and the other part of me believes something else. Perhaps, again, what you do not prefer. And very often individuals will create this in the form of what you sometimes label a quandary and allow a particular paralysis, for they feel that they are indeed divided up into these parts that are diametrically opposed. Very creative. Understand, however, that there is another way to look at it, as there is another way to look at anything. And that is by redefining when you feel that there are parts of you at odds, that rather than perceiving them as divisions, as parts are, perceiving them as choices or options within you. Even your willingness to change the wording changes the perspective. And rather than there being, again, parts playing a tug of war with your consciousness, you may simply understand that now that you have defined them as choices rather than discrete parts of you, that this now presupposes that you can choose between them and understand that you can. Now, we have discussed many times the idea that the ultimate truth is composed of all truths. So therefore, all choices within you are true. So it is not a matter of you being able to figure out which choice is true, for they are both true. And were you willing to assume either one of those positions or choices, you will then emotionally feel that that is true within its own framework. But what we are suggesting is that the other part, the other choice, is just as true. So first of all, equalizing these parts, redefining them as choices, and then equalizing those choices, not wishing to escape or get rid of one of them, but simply defining what they are. The form of defining what they are allows us to bring into play another aspect that we have discussed with you, that being the tool of your imagination. For we have discussed many times that your personality is composed of a prism that breaks down the white light of infinite creation. And the three sides that comprise this prism is belief, emotion, and thought. Therefore, you can understand that any choice within you is a belief, and therefore generates an emotion, generates thought patterns, and based on the foundation of these beliefs, emotions, and thoughts, generates particular actions, which then support that truth, which then allow you to experience that truth at the seeming exclusion of all other truths. Therefore, this applies as well to these choices within you. one of the things that will enable you to define them and consciously decide between them is utilizing your imagination in a way that we have shared before. Sitting down, perhaps when you have some time and can relax and isolate yourself, center yourself. Simply begin, we suggest, at first with the more negative or least preferred choice. Sit down. State that choice. State the position of that part of you, that belief system. While you are stating it, allow the corresponding emotion, as it automatically always will, to muster up, to build up within you, and truly feel how having that perspective, making that choice, being that part, using the older terminology of you, feels. How it truly feels. Now, in general, since we are discussing at first doing the less preferential choice, that emotion will be a heavy, perhaps negatively interpreted emotion. You can then very easily extrapolate what thoughts would then come to your mind, and again, subsequently, what actions you would then take having that choice. But the point is to state the idea. Feel how it feels. Truly allow yourself to completely feel that emotion. Do not squelch it. Allow the belief to generate the emotion, but then feel, experience, be that emotion. Notice the thoughts that are then corresponding, and notice what actions you would be inclined to take when choosing that particular non-preferred perspective. Dive into it. Allow yourself to be that idea. Allow yourself to truly discover the results, the emotional, the thought pattern, and the action results of that particular perspective or belief. When you have completed this, evaluate how you feel about it. Then, after you have blanked out the canvas, the screen of your imagination, allow yourself to now state the preferred choice, the choice you really wish you were. But state it as fact. State it as though you already are. If you need to utilize the terminology, make believe. When you do, allow the corresponding emotions to then be created from the new preferred belief. They will, again in general, be a lighter emotion, a more energizing emotion, and will then correspondingly generate thoughts, and again, through your imagination's extrapolation, a set of actions. Truly allow yourself to now feel how that feels. When you are through doing that and have established the actions of the preferred you, now compare. For again, it is not that one has any more weight than the other. Your willingness to play them both out equally allows you to interpret and assign them as equal, and thereby gives you equal access to them. When you create the new emotions, compare them to the other emotions. Which do you prefer? Understand that you have not moved from your seat, and yet you have created a plethora of responses by simply stating one belief and then stating another. This equalizes it, and in that sense lays it all out on the table, and you get to choose from that table. It perhaps will then not be very difficult to make a choice. For in general, individuals prefer the lighter, more positive, more energizing, more exciting emotion. When you give yourself the advantage of seeing what the actions would be with one set of beliefs versus the other, it is also then not difficult at all to simply decide which set of actions are more reflective of your preference. And the way that you choose, again, having equally acknowledged both, the way that you then manifest the choice that you prefer is by, again, viewing the actions from the new choice. Act that way. And that is all it takes. You have now integrated what you have formally defined to be parts of yourself. You have rendered them to choices, and you have simply chosen, not having gotten rid of the choice you do not prefer, but acknowledged it and simply chosen something else. This is integration. This is transformation. Formating, if you will, a new point of view according to preference. Now, very often when this occurs, one of the issues that may again come up is your inherent feelings, your inherent opinion, if you will, about your own worthiness, about your own deservability. We remind you that the universe supplies anything to you that you truly believe you deserve. So therefore, if the issues again of deservability, of worthiness do come up, take the opportunity to remind yourself of the unconditional love of all that is. For it is simply constant. It is eternal. It is infinite. And no matter how you feel about yourself, you are always being an extension of creation, being an expression of creation itself, always unconditionally loved by creation. For creation simply does not forsake any part of itself. By definition, being unconditionally loving, all that is, or what you sometimes call God, also, by definition, applies that unconditional love to his, her self, to itself. You too have any ability, being made in the image and likeness of all that is, to also inwardly reflect your own willingness to remove the conditions from yourself to love yourself. Because all that is sets up the mold, sets up the template, always in that sense, imparts to you that unconditional love by simply reminding yourself of it and allowing yourself to then feel it, which can be quite overwhelming in a positive way. You can always then mimic that vibration. You can always then realize that nothing is held from you. And perhaps again, the issue is what you feel you deserve. But again, we remind you, you needed to do nothing to exist. Even in your own society, upon being born, you are showered with gifts from the society. You did nothing but simply come into physicality and are already showered with gifts by the universe. Therefore, you need not earn this idea. It is your birthright. Absolutely. Therefore, for your willingness to utilize of the many choices available to you, interacting with us, interfacing with us, we thank you and also express to you our unconditional love and appreciation for the gift of your sharing, for the gift of your consciousness, for your willingness to begin to understand that loving yourself infinitely now enables you to love all others. And the style and the form which you choose to love yourself will create your ability to love others. Therefore, if you wish to increase your love to others, you wish to increase your love and service to others, do so with integrity to yourself. For you and they are all an extension of one event, one thing. All that is. Nothing is left out. Therefore, your willingness to treat it that way will then, in a sense, allow you to feel that you fit in as well. For you do. For your willingness to expand and explore your consciousness and choose of the choices available, interacting as ambassadors of your civilization with us, I ask you now, how may I be of service to you?
Elan,
Yes.
I have a couple of questions for you.
All right.
And observations, I guess, internalized in the questions. My first question is, Jerry Brown, a Democrat for president, seems to be gaining a lot of support every day in the United States primaries. Will he win the Democratic convention in July of 92?
Now. You have interacted with us to know that it is our understanding that it is your planet. That any prediction we might render is simply a sensing.
Right.
And even the understanding of the prediction can then change it.
Right.
Shall we say symbolically, which is how we prefer to interact, then allowing you to draw your own conclusions? That particular representation to us simply symbolizes individuals' willingness to change, to transform the system that you have created into more of a representation of who you are, of who you wish to be. And in taking back individually your own power, you now wish that the representation of your own power also be an empowered representation. So therefore, symbolically speaking, that is our sensing of that symbol.
So you see, it seems like people in the United States seem to be taking back their own power very, very quickly.
It is not exclusive to your country, but yes.
Right. For us, it seems to be one of the last realms on the earth where it's starting to happen. Russia, the former Soviet Union, seems to have already gone through that transformational process, or is continually going through it.
Continually, yes.
And I think we're just starting to evolve through that process in terms of our politics.
But there is the ability, due to the way that your system is structured, to literally transform it without it collapsing. Now, again, it is possible. Anything is possible, but it is also as possible to transform it utilizing the advantages that it sets up.
My second question is, recently a TV show called Now It Can Be Told went to Area 51 in Nevada, which is an area supposedly where there are a couple of spacecraft that are being tested. And they were told of a new hangars that were built on the secret area where they contain possibly 9 highly advanced flying spacecraft. Can you tell us what's going on at Hangar 51 at this time?
Our perception is that there is some accuracy to this idea, and that any technology that has been received by your society from extraterrestrial sources, shall we say, will still always have the limitation of understanding that you cannot separate consciousness from these ideas. So therefore, until individuals realize that they are directly linked with the technology and continue to view that technology as simply hardware, there will only be the limited application of the technology.
Well, this limited application of technology, could that be considered the possibility of eliminating only these top secret people that are at this Hangar 51 area, not allowing the public or general scientists and others who do not have access?
That is a choice of your own society, not the extraterrestrial civilization. Right. And the form of the limitation, so to speak, is perhaps you can say that they can get them to fly, but not very far. And in a sense have not entered space itself with them.
Maybe they need a few of us in this room to help them out a little bit.
Well, all right.
Just kidding. But I have a third question here. The people of the United States seem to be taking their empowerment back this year. And just this week, our Speaker of the House of the U.S. House of Representatives was asked to step down because of the current political upheaval in our nation's capital. It seems as if our political power base for the U.S. is falling apart quickly.
Transforming, which in a sense, by your own definition, generally, again, by your own definition, requires a slight tearing down before there is a build up. But one of the primary issues are accountability. And one of the primary reasons that this now becomes more obvious to individuals is the expansion of your ability to communicate your media. Do proceed.
Yeah, what events can we look forward to before our presidential election? And will the mass discontent of our people or awakening now taking place affect the outcome of our future in this year?
Question number 2, the answer is yes. Question number 1 is that you will see forms, dribs and drabs, utilizing your language, of information being quote-unquote leaked about the existence of such ideas.
Mm-hmm. You have mentioned this will most likely be our last presidential election. Is that correct?
There is some likelihood behind that idea. For now, we will stand behind it, but nothing again is etched in stone. And that is more than anything a symbolic representation of the taking back of your individual power and not needing to empower a particular single individual to do so. So it is possible.
Okay, well, our current president keeps talking about his New World Order. Can you define what the president means by his New World Order, and I say his, versus the New World Order or the New World that we're all talking about here in these interactions?
From our particular understanding, and again, it is only our perspective, that particular terminology, New World Order, is generally meant America is the boss, which perhaps is not the perspective of all the other countries. So therefore, you can understand that our particular suggestions are the leaning toward global unitization, not a subtle, shall we say, very fancy, slick form of domination.
Is there a certain grouping of people involved in this so-called New World Order that, let's say, our current president?
It is far more an idea, a concept at this point than a reality. There are individuals, perhaps you can say, in place in case it goes that far, but it is not, shall we say, very well defined at this point.
Well, who came about with the idea of a New World Order? I mean,
there are particular individuals who are, shall we say, in association with each other, including your president.
Okay, so it was sort of a decision made basically from the top down.
In a sense.
Right, we weren't privy to the decision-making process of that.
Well, you are ultimately, yes. For your awareness of it can then allow you to take whatever actions or whatever feedback you wish.
Okay, I just have one other comment.
All right.
Tuesday night around 7:30 p.m., I saw a beautiful light just shoot across the sky as I was going to a friend's house. And I think it was just a shooting star or a meteor. Can you expand on this a little bit for me?
Our perception is that it was an atmospheric occurrence.
An atmospheric occurrence?
Yes.
What does that mean in layman?
There is certain electron activity that has been infused artificially by members of your civilization. You witnessed such, shall we say, a side effect.
Huh. All right, that's interesting.
We think so. And we thank you for your sharing.
Thank you.
Sharing.
Elan.
Ace.
A company has approached me and my partners to buy us out and have me work for them as a manager.
And how does that feel?
Basically, I don't like change. Can I trust my feelings that this move would be contra to my makeup and not give me the substance and freedom that I require?
Perhaps you can say you can trust your feelings if you can define why you have them. Do you have them out of a sense of insecurity, or is it your intuition and heart of hearts speaking to you? Also understand it is quite inconvenient in your reality to, in that sense, dislike change, for change is the only constant.
If I decide against this buyout, will my partner support me in my decision?
That will be up to him. But the real question is, will you support yourself in that decision? And in that way, we suggest self-reflecting, looking at how you truly feel, looking at what issues come up again surrounding insecurity, handling them and then running it through again and seeing how you feel. If you feel that this will facilitate you and enable you to do what it is you wish, go right ahead. If you feel that it will squelch your ability to express who you are, then in that sense you may wish to refrain.
Would I be wise in bringing in new partners to replace my old ones? And will that allow me the freedom and the success that I'm seeking?
That is one possibility, and our simple suggestion would be to be sure that you are synchronized in intention. Discuss what your clear intention or vision is. And if there is agreement with this, then that is a very high likelihood, yes.
Is synchronization that when you say to
In other words,
to get centered and go through the views, or?
well, in other words, in presenting your viewpoints, if they are the same viewpoints as the others, they are synchronized.
Well, they're not. They can't be synchronized because
If you say so.
each one of the partners is coming from a different direction, i.e., one chooses to retire, one wants to semi-retire.
Yes, but you have discussed the influxion of new partners. And what we are suggesting again is that you simply share the same intentions.
Okay, thank you for now.
And to you, sharing ace. Greetings.
Greetings. Bashar has stated in his book that our present is not the result of our past,
Ace.
and that each
Experientially speaking.
okay, practically experientially speaking, I mean, virtually, it is not the result of the past. And he says if we internalize it and believe it and live it,
You will be free
he says you will break the connection to third density.
and be walking in fourth, yes.
All right. I want to know really what that means. Can I break connection to third density?
You can transform into fourth. Again, not breaking away or escaping from third. But one of the things that keeps you very rigidly within third is the idea that you create a causal relationship with the past. Again, we remind you, you only ever experientially exist in the now moment. The now moment is the only time that ever exists. When you speak of the past in a particular now moment, you are recreating a perception of a past in the now moment, and then to whatever degree you empower it, perhaps you can say use it as an excuse, you then create the effect of it being a result of that past. But your willingness to understand that every now moment is a complete package, is a complete kit, and that any notions you have of the past are simply recreations in that present, frees you up and allows you to make decisions based on what it is you wish to do, not using something unpreferential in your past as an excuse to hold yourself back.
My question is, if breaking connection to third, what does it actually mean? Am I going to be able to enjoy experiencing third density? Would I be seeing it from a fourth density perspective?
In a sense, yes, you would be third transitional fourth, still able to interact in third, but living, shall we say, a fourth density attitude. And that attitude brings along with it an ecstatic explosion of coincidence, delivering to you all the things you prefer, allowing you to function in tandem, in line, in step with your purpose, with your excitement. And therefore, the experience of your world is more likened to what you sometimes call heaven on earth. So it is not that you will disappear into the void, no. You will, in that sense, be a fourth density representation or example upon your planet.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, and to you, for your willingness to transform and to, in that sense, begin to choose to step in line with your purpose. Is that all?
That is it. Thank you.
And we thank you. Sharing, yes.
When I was writing down my questions tonight, I suddenly realized that all three of them, coincidentally, had to do with the same period of my life when I was about 12 or 13. And the first question I wanted to ask you about, at that time in the early 50s, my dad was very much interested in extraterrestrial activity and this kind of thing. And in our camp at Millinocket Lake up in Maine, clustered in the snow under the windows were these strange little prints about 2 concentric circles, one about 3 inches across and one very small that was deeper in the center with radiating lines coming out from it. It looked like somebody had been standing there looking in the window, but there was no trail going anywhere else. Then he found another cluster in an open place and another cluster down by the lake, which he took pictures of. But he didn't send them to any authorities or anything in the Air Force because he was afraid he'd never get them back and all this kind of thing. At the same time that this was happening, I remember being in my room in our house and seeing something dark go overhead, or it became dark overhead, and there was a lot of static electricity. None of the clocks or the radios or anything would work right. And then it lasted for about, 5 minutes or so, and then was gone. And at that also same time, when I was telling a friend of mine about my father's footprints, she said, don't you know that there are extraterrestrials walking around on the earth right now, and they look exactly like human beings? Her name was Janice Kinney, I remember. And I just wondered, what were the footprints?
Will you again describe them?
Yes. They looked like the outer circle was about 3 inches across.
They were circular?
Yes.
All right.
With a smaller ring on the inside that was deeper down into the snow.
We understand.
Right. And then there were like radiating lines like coming out from a star center sticking out.
This is, shall we say, the result of a particular style of probe. It was not, classically speaking, footprints. And it was, shall we say, a valid event of extraterrestrial origin.
Now I have are Pleiadians most like?
Yes. They are literally, lineage speaking, incarnationally, your brothers, sisters, and cousins. You have common origins throughout the multiverse.
Are they walking around in human form? I mean, could I meet one on the street and it would look exactly like me?
If you were to meet one on the street, they would look very similar to you. However, they do not, in general, walk around on your street. They have not infiltrated your planet. They, in that sense, have other things to do.
What was the probe for?
To establish a particular connection in terms of your perception of it, and from their perspective, observation and reconnaissance.
Okay. Now I have one more question. I have just a new friend, Terry, who told me that at age 16, right along the shoreline in Madison and Clinton, she and her friend had gone to the beach. And on their way home in the car, it suddenly became very dark all over the top of the car, and they stopped and they looked out each side of the window, and hovering right above them was a huge spaceship.
Ace.
And it was round, she said, with clear lights all the way around it. It was moving silently with no sound between the trees, and they turned the car around and tried to follow it back towards the beach. And I just wondered where they might be from.
Well, again, this is Pleiadian.
It is Pleiadian.
Yes, and again, a valid sighting.
Now, is that a postcard, as you call it, for her, or?
In a sense, it was a postcard both ways. It established a connection, but again, only to the degree that she is willing to look at it, and what is now of interest to her, her willingness to embark upon exploring it, will be most helpful in enabling her to go the next step.
Because she has a new a friend, Pat, who evidently has organized a group that are studying this in the area, and I just wondered if she and I had any connection, because of this whole thing.
'Tis up to you, but it can be.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Sharing.
Elan?
Over there.
Hi, Elan.
Greetings. Oh, bright one.
Thank you for the introduction. It was beautiful.
Thank you for your willingness to receive it.
Uh,
How profound.
I just thought you might, I had the thought when you were sharing with us in the introduction that there was some sort of unity exercise you could share with us as a group. Or I had a feeling it was leading up to some kind of meditation or an exercise you could share with us.
In this particular evening, no.
Okay.
However, stay tuned. There are, shall we say, other things on the agenda this evening.
I had the feeling about that. Okay. And I had a couple questions. One is, I had talked to you about energy Elijah.
Ace.
And I got some information that he was Pleiadian.
There are connections to Pleiadian. It would not be accurate to say directly Pleiadian.
Okay. What is this energy directly?
If we are synchronized to what you are intending to share, human.
Okay. Then when he left, what happened?
In a sense, if again we are sharing a common idea,
Yes.
he simply laid down the groundwork for what you label your Jesus. In a sense, you may say, set the stage.
Right. And as he physically left the planet, what happened in his transformation?
What you would understand is there to be a, shall we say, synchronization with the overall oversoul, which was representative of a portion of your mass consciousness itself, rehomogenizing into that field, and then incarnating, as well as many other portions, as the Christ himself. There are many energies directly associated with that individual who were expressions of the same energy.
Elisha was one of those?
If we are speaking again about the same Elijah.
Okay, last night I was sitting talking to friend Atia, and after we had a neat discussion, I had this sudden like little beep 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 in my ears, and I said, "What is this?" I thought it was some, information being downloaded or something, but it was different than that. So I asked, we talked about it, and we talked about what it was.
Our simple suggestion would be to remove analyzation from the process, simply emotionally experience it and understand that it was, in a sense, a form of music.
What she talked to one of her guides, and he came up with that it was something from a beacon for the Pleiadians. It was just, I was tuning into the vibration of that. Do you have anything to say on that? Was that accurate?
Simply that there are connections directly to that energy.
It was fun.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And to you. Shooting.
Wow.
Female.
The other night when I was in the group with you, we all closed our eyes and you let us, you imprinted yourself on us in some way.
Do share. We simply, in that sense, had a transmission of thought,
Right, I didn't know how to call it.
thereby enabling individuals who choose to receive a certain idea. What did you receive?
Well, nothing that night. And I thought I was very open. And so I was sort of excited about it, and nothing happened. And then on Thursday...
By the way, we did discuss within that action the trust of timing.
Yes, I know you did. So I have a meditation group that I belong to. And on Thursday, I was in the meditation group and I was meditating. And I thought about that for a minute and, that I hadn't received anything. And then... I had asked you the question about getting in touch with my spirit guides.
Nice.
So I sort of did what you said, and I asked if there was anything I should know. And as soon as that came into my head, as soon as I asked that, I thought I saw a face come in so that I could see it clearly. Was that you?
You mean to tell me it's that simple?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what
This is what we have been sharing. It was a representational, shall we say, symbol of our energy. In a sense, you can say a composite individual, not simply one individual.
Okay, that's what it looked like the classic pictures that you see, but it was from you then.
There are other overtones, but again, it was the response you desired. Again, having then trusted the timing. For there is a particular unfoldment of these images, and many times they, in that sense, will manifest as feelings, symbologies, rather than direct pictures.
But this was the picture for me. Okay, and it was real. I mean, I didn't just make it up.
It was co-created.
Okay.
Whether or not you choose to make it real will be up to you.
Okay.
From our perspective, most real.
Well, the other thing, when we were talking about my having a spirit guide, and you told me who they were, and you said something about that I would probably be in touch with one of them. Were you saying that I could be a channel if I chose to for that?
Yes, but the idea is that you can choose the form to express the information. There are many ways to express ideas in your society. Therefore, you literally get to choose what form excites you the most. And we suggest in that sense that you use that excitement as a criterion. Therefore, right from the word go, as you say, you are having fun. And it is the spirit and willingness to express that joy and feel the excitement of that fun that will strengthen the connection in and of itself.
To feel the fun in like, for instance, I'm a storyteller now,
Ace.
but someone has told me that maybe what I need to do is write.
That will be up to you. No one can truly tell you what you need. They can simply make the suggestion. Then it rings true with you or not. So it is an opportunity for you to define your position. What do you feel? Do you feel more attracted to expressing this verbally or to expressing it in writing, or perhaps both?
So I just have to start doing.
Do not have to, but you may wish to.
All right. Now I have 2 more questions.
All right.
You talked also about vortexes, and you mentioned Sedona was a vortex. Are there any around this area? When I say this area, and I'm talking about the East Coast.
There is one in your state of Connecticut. It is in your area you call Southbury. It is, shall we say, comparatively smaller than the other ones we have discussed, but nevertheless is a gateway. There are individuals present this evening who can direct you to that area.
Okay. All right. And the other question I have is that I am by birth, I'm Irish and Scotch. And so there's always been a lot of talk about leprechauns, and that also comes into the fact that I'm a storyteller. Is there some truth to all that?
Well, understand again that the ultimate truth is composed of all truths. However, some are more or less relevant to your dimension of experience. In one sense, you can say they are symbolic of the hopes and wishes within each individual being externalized and delivered. On the other hand, you can also understand that some of the origin of the mythology surrounding that particular manifestation will be some misidentifications of entities that are, shall we say, extra-dimensional. They are, in a sense, manifestations that result from what you might call the archetypal substream of your mass consciousness itself. Is that clear at all?
No. Until you got to the archetypal substream, I was clear.
All right. Well, the idea is that there are some physical occurrences that were then misidentified in this way, and it also, again, symbolizes the externalization of your wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elan.
Yes.
Hello.
Greetings.
Ha'atu.
Ha'atu. You're getting there.
I wanted to tell you
That for those who are, shall we say, new to this interaction, is a phrase from our remnant language. We no longer have language, but once did. That simply means we love you. Do proceed.
I wanted to tell you some wonderful timing on that. The next morning after I was here.
Not you too.
Yes, me too.
Oh, all right. Something's going around. Perhaps you would prefer to catch it.
Yes, I would. I am. The last time here, I struggled so to try and say that. And I was picturing it wrong. And the next morning when I sat down to read, I picked up the very end of a transcript I was reading from Bashar, California. And it ended with the word ha'atu. So I got to see it and see how it's said, see how it's written.
All right.
Which made a big difference. And then I started thinking about what it means. And last time I was so busy trying to say it, I didn't think about what it means. And I realized you'd said that you love us. And it made me feel so wonderful that I was on a high all day.
Oh, thank you. So are we.
Yeah. Even so much so that when I discovered that where my car was parked while I was here last time, one of the hubcaps was stolen.
Oh, how exciting.
It didn't bother me.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
And as it turned out, the next day, my husband went with me to get a new hubcap. And because of my going with him and him going with me, he got a new car, which he wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And he's absolutely crazy about this new car. I mean, he's really crazy about it.
All right.
And I got my new hubcap for my anniversary.
Perhaps not what you expected, but however, something you prefer and desire.
No, I preferred that.
Do understand, watch what you wish for, you may get it.
So then the next morning, I started the next transcript, and the title was Happy Anniversary, and it was our anniversary. So I thought, this is great. And then that day I went to play tennis, and I've had a lot of trouble with my serve for the whole time I've played tennis, like 25 years. And I've tried a lot of times to make it the way I wanted it. And that day I said, well, I'm just going to do it right. And I did. There was no process, and I've been doing it right ever since.
All right. Perhaps you are now being of service even in that regard.
To myself, right?
And those interacting with you.
Well, it's harder for them if I serve right.
If you say so. Perhaps they will mirror that idea.
Yeah. But I appreciate all this. I mean, it's such a nice feeling of timing and joy, and everything that's in my life is things that I want to be there.
It only gets more desirable. It only gets more preferable. It only gets more exciting.
Yeah.
Have a good time.
I have two questions.
Ace, number one.
Number one, is there a form of polarity everywhere, every when?
No. Polarity is a particular exploration. Polarity is a particular expression of separation. Even from the perspective of your own soul, as you call it, or oversoul, it is not male or female. It is neither and yet both. Therefore, polarity is an exploration of a particular style of dynamic of energy within a reality that allows one thing to stand out against the background of another. Always does it contain, no matter how far apart any polarity may be, by definition, a common center. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. I have one other question. When I do something, does it directly affect someone else or only my version of someone else?
Your version of someone else, and then someone else, should they choose to participate, perhaps in what you may call the form of a reaction to you. But always, any offering you have is simply a gift. And the willingness of the individual and what they will do with that gift will determine their self-created effect. Therefore, again, you cannot be responsible for them in any way, only to them, and they are then choosing to be responsible for themselves. Does that help?
Yes, it does. It does. So what we do doesn't affect everyone else, only as they choose it to.
It affects them by giving them more options, alternative thoughts, other perspectives than the one that they commonly create, which is always the opportunity, no matter what they choose to do with it, for them to grow and expand their awareness.
But it's always everyone's choice what affects them.
Yes. Perhaps sometimes unconsciously, but what we discuss with you is allowing it to become conscious and then choosing to continue to create it consciously.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and we thank you as well. Shutting.
Elan,
Yes.
what do you mean by responsible to?
Each individual creating their own reality is responsible for their own reality. The form of being responsible to someone else is your willingness to fully be responsible for yourself, and in doing so, then offer yourself as a gift to them. That is being responsible to rather than for. One of the aspects of this will be in the giving of the gift that you are, to not insist that they must take it and do a certain thing with it. To not have a particular rigid expectation in what they then must do with what you have shared. That is being responsible too. When you have a particular explanation that they must respond in a particular way, In that sense, you are being, or attempting to be, for you never can truly responsible for their reaction, which you cannot. Is that clear?
Yes, being responsible to another person is the same as just being responsible for yourself.
Is being who you are, not withholding the gift of your consciousness. Period.
As you express it, truly express it, not have chains between it, not hold on to it, but release it as you express it.
Then you are responsible to them. When you say to them what it is that is reflective of who you are, and, for instance, not what you think they wish to hear, you are being responsible to them. When you say what you think they wish to hear, you are assuming a responsibility for them as though they cannot handle what it is you actually feel. And they can. And in fact, have attracted you for the advantage that you have to offer in providing the alternative.
Thank you.
And to you, Sherry.
Elan.
Male.
Which one? Which one?
Back there.
Elan, last time, first of all, good evening.
Greetings once again.
Uh,
The interaction continues.
Last time that I had the pleasure of communicating with you, I asked the question whether I had been associated with my daughter in any way in a past life, and you said yes, that we had been together in England. Could I just ask you whether I was connected with my son in any way in a past life in England? And I asked that question because my mother was born there, and I wonder if maybe we were all connected in some way.
There were common connections, but may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Being that this is the life, right now, right here, all this information that we share simply allows you to come to particular recognitions. In the searching for this knowledge, what have you come to that allows you to apply what you have found into this life? For this is truly the bottom line of these explorations.
Well, I guess that's very true. I should concentrate more on right now.
No shoulds, simply suggesting that anything that you derive from these other experiences are only as useful as they are relevant to what you are now exploring, and thereby those perspectives enable you to apply particular recognitions in this life. Therefore, we now, in that sense, stray your attention to the beginning of the application of these significances to this life, for that is what will open up any other, shall we say, relevances that you may wish to connect with. But the application is what puts the mechanism into motion and allows you direct access.
Can I just ask you one other question?
You can ask.
I have not done probably as much reading as a lot of other people.
Yes, but you are exactly where you need be. Do understand that and proceed.
Could you give me some thoughts on how to meditate and better open up
Absolutely.
my mind for receiving
Absolutely.
more information to proceed toward a fourth density?
All right. When you are speaking of the idea in the classic sense of meditation, our simple suggestion is to find a position which is comfortable, yet in which you will not fall asleep. Get in touch with the idea of what you generally take for granted, your breath. Breathe intentionally, purposefully, in deeply, out deeply. Establish that flow. Allow yourself to create, shall we say, a blank screen in front of you. In doing so, allow whatever thoughts occur to simply occur and then move on, in that they will seem to be, shall we say, part of a stream of thought. Do not, in that sense, attempt to prevent them. It is quite, in a sense, impractical anyway. Allow whatever thoughts to occur to run through. Then, simply, once you feel you are centered, once you feel you are somewhat blank, so to speak, then clearly establish what it is you wish to know. The clarity of your establishment, of your intention, sets up the vibration for the answer to come through. Then simply as an answer comes, if it is phrased in the form of a question, simply listen. Listen as though you are wishing to perceive a very quiet sound. Be absolutely silent. And then when it comes, allow it to deliver its relevance, and where and whenever possible, as we had just discussed, apply it in action in this life. That bridges the gap. For now, that will do. One other thing, however, is that anything that you truly do with no hesitation, automatically, effortlessly, is in a sense a form of meditation or channeling itself. Therefore, when you are, as you sometimes say in your language, in a groove with a particular idea, that is another form of meditation. So you need not be so rigid that that is the only way. Whenever you truly are expressing your being in this way, fully, effortlessly, and without hesitation, there is a similar connection that you, in a sense, illustrate in your classic meditations. Does that help?
Yes, it does. If I don't quite understand what is being...
You will, for it will be geared to you. It will be quite understandable. At first, it may even seem overly obvious. Telepathic communications, which we sometimes call empathic, for that is more precise of the mechanism, occur along as your electricity, in a sense, the path of least resistance. And your path of least resistance at first, in the human form, may seem to come in the form of information that you already know. So it is not that you need, in that sense, berate yourself for you already know it, but pay attention to what it is that comes up, as that is what will be most conducive for you to look at of what you already know. Apply it again into your life, but it will be quite understandable and will only expand to your degree to understand it. Otherwise, it would not serve a purpose with you. Going over, in that sense, your own head would not make sense. Therefore, it will be obvious.
If I wanted to expand on it, can I mentally ask a question?
Oh, yes. And continue to. And the answers are provided, so to speak, from the other end. And if you wish to get more specific about methods for doing such, ask them. They will share. They will provide methods which are more specific for you. And your willingness to then, getting the information, apply it, do it, will then yield a result that perhaps you do not expect. Is that at least clear for you to proceed?
Absolutely.
We thank you.
Thank you very much.
Elan.
And to you. Ace, back there.
Elan.
Greetings.
Greetings, Elan. Where in our chain of existence coming into the third dimension did we drift from loving ourselves?
Perhaps you can say within it itself. When beginning to explore the idea of being separate from all that is, which again is an exploration and not, shall we say, a fact. It is a perspective. You can truly never be separated from all that is, or it would not be all that is. But the idea is that when individuals began to perceive themselves as separate individuals, one of the qualities that assumed was that they no longer allowed themselves to consciously, continuously feel that unconditional love of creation. And when, in that sense, individuals cut themselves off, choosing to not constantly feel that connection, shall we say, many of them got down on themselves. And then began a new societal notion, operating from the perspective of being separated and needing to rejoin. That was a helpless perspective, and that helplessness, perceived helplessness, was then judged, and a cycle or a momentum of negative application proceeded. And this allowed for the exploration of extreme limitation and negativity. In effect, it is the only way to be able to explore that negativity, by separating from the one. Now you are beginning to explore taking back these ideas. Unifying what you had formerly considered to be parts are now understanding to be choices. Does that answer?
Yeah, yes, it does.
Is that all?
No, we go just a little further now, and if we were not separated, what would we be thinking? What would we be feeling if we weren't separated?
Again, being discrete individuals, different things. It would simply depend. But one of the ideas that you do not experience when you are living your connection is isolation, aloneness, as you say, helplessness, the need to dominate, the need to force anything to occur. For you, being in step with the flow of creation, simply need to decide what you wish to allow to manifest. And allowance, again, and not forcing, is the mechanism of your creatorhood.
But what did we feel? Did we feel just this warmth, this great love, this great protectiveness, this great love for everyone around?
There is a word in your language. It is ecstasy.
We felt ecstasy.
Yes.
Deserted ecstasy.
Oh, no. You did not desert anything. You chose to explore something else. As again we have discussed, so therefore we will be brief. When you know it all, nothing is new. Nothing is learned. Nothing is discovered. Nothing is surprise. Therefore, in order to explore that particular joy of discovery, you chose to impose a forgetfulness of certain portions of yourself so that you can literally rediscover them. And as you dismembered yourself, you can literally remember yourself. Congratulations. Did not expect that.
It seems like such a waste of time.
Well, perhaps you may understand the following. As long as you perceive it as a waste of time, you will create more time. As long as you perceive it as something to escape from, you will firmly anchor yourself to it. When you begin to exhibit your ability to respond to your reality in a positive way and create that heaven on earth, you then automatically transform into fourth. Therefore, not running from third, but, shall we say, unfolding into fourth. You never escape from a reality. That would suppose you are within a reality and allow us to remind you that the reality is within you. And when you do move from third to fourth, this is one of the recognitions that the reality that you previously assumed you existed within exists within you. So therefore, if you wish, look at your willingness to label anything as a waste, which again assumes that something can be extraneous, and by definition, nothing can. Only if you define it can you get the effect of it seeming that way. But even that belongs. Do you wish to continue to pursue this?
I will, after.
Oh, all right. At this timing, allow us to pause for a short break and make some preparations for a guest. We will resume contact in 15 to 20 of your minutes of counting. Before we continue, allow a few adjustments. Allow us to communicate with you in the following way. First of all, understand that though we present ourselves as an individual for the convenience of interacting directly with what you perceive yourself to be an individual, we are a representational energy. We represent many billions, in fact, of individuals and are representative of the association of worlds itself. Though we will interact with you as individuals, we perceive you in that sense as parts, facets of one whole crystal. Therefore, our interactions with you will be from the perspective that there is one whole consciousness presenting many faces, many aspects, many perspectives. Therefore, we now allow the interaction between of this representation of our consciousness with the first perspective of your mass consciousness. Do proceed.
I just want to take the opportunity in this forum to send my greetings to all of you.
It is received and returned.
Thank you. And to thank you for your participation with me.
There are many, many streams of society consciousness that are sharing with you through your expression. Your willingness to loosen up your grip a bit will enable things which are quite different from what you generally perceive to be typical life to come through in a free-form fashion. It is not necessary, unless it excites you, to label these forms. Simply appreciate them and share them with those that find themselves attracted, and understand that the function is served by individuals attracting these images into their reality, what you call your pictures, to enable us, in a sense, from our end, in a very non-interferive way, to begin to allow individuals to acclimatize to the many differing ways that the many societies of the association present themselves in physical form. Therefore, we thank you as well.
Thank you. Specifically, I did loosen up my grip the other day, and
Yes.
I created an interesting being, water being. Is there anything you can...
Not exactly in that sense. Understand that it is a medium that would be less fluid than what you consider your water to be, but thicker than what you consider to be your air atmosphere. It is truly extra-dimensional.
Okay. That explains why I couldn't get the water right.
You got it just perfect. But had judged
Yes.
your creation.
Yes. Exactly. Thank you.
And we thank you as well. Proceed to present the next face. Representation of the whole.
Hello?
Yes.
I don't know how to address you. What's your name?
Again, we are a collective energy and simply the association, or perhaps the galactic.
Right. Your energy feels completely different from Elan.
Yes, it is again a composite energy. And though what you consider to be Elan, Bashar, are individuals, they are also facilitated by other individuals. There are, however, more by quite a bit in this blending.
There's a softness, and I felt my heart open even more when you came in, and I saw colors streaming. I don't know what that's about.
In a sense, it is the transmission of consciousness visualized by you, but also understand that your attraction to this face that we present, being that it is representative of many extraterrestrial worlds, shows you in no uncertain terms that you are interested in these aspects of this interaction as well.
Well, I wasn't going to come tonight, and I had a dream a few nights ago that seemed to signal me to be here, if I was interpreting it correctly. That something special was going to happen, and I was sorry in the dream I missed it, so I wanted to make sure that I really was here.
You may understand the beginning of this interaction to be that as well, and not simply one aspect of it. There are certain ideas that were re-emphasized for you.
Okay. I have a personal question for my son, but I guess I sort of am also curious as to, did you come here specifically to deliver a particular message separate from what was given in the very beginning?
In a sense, it is simply to expand the definition of these interactions and to begin to allow other consciousness to communicate through this channel from time to time when it is deemed appropriate. It is, in a very real sense, a forging of new channels and opening within the channel. It is also as well, since you cannot separate yourself from this idea, an opening in any individual who chooses to be present this evening. Therefore, you are all also individually and collectively expanding your ability to communicate with the rich and fertile multiverse, not desolate and barren, as has been imagined. Therefore, it is representative of a generalized expansion in awareness, in that you are now able to interact with other aspects of the association.
Thank you.
And to you, we thank that perspective of the totality. And again, open up dialogue and communication with the next representative facet of the whole.
Hello.
Ace.
I'm very happy that you're with us tonight. You're very joyful, and I feel a lot of joy coming from you as well.
It is our always ecstatic joy to, in this sense, filter through physiological manifestations as a totality, to again expand the definition of the interactions between us. And this then presupposes that there are many individuals interested, which brings us great joy.
I would like to talk about an excitement that I'm going through. It's going through certain motions to get there, but it is going to happen.
All right, we ask you a question.
Yes.
When will you begin to facilitate your connection to the Pleiadian society?
I've been going to sleep with my breathing exercises joyfully in my sleep before I go in my sleeping dream state to do so.
We are speaking of while you are awake.
While I'm awake.
Ace, while you are awake.
Okay.
Dream contact is one option. We are speaking about you now being consciously willing to initiate dialogue while awake.
Okay. Dialogue while awake, could that be considered a direct dialogue between two people?
In a sense, you may utilize that symbol, yes.
Okay, because it's very interesting you bring that question up. I've been thinking very, very joyfully about, I visit a friend of mine in an area where it's pretty secluded enough to have a meeting directly where it'd be late at night on my way home on Tuesday nights. And I've thought about this, and I've sort of visualized this area of farms. And I visualized in my mind the joy that this would be a perfect spot for me to be able to equally share in my love with the Pleiadians without any hesitation whatsoever, and boldly validate that whole connection, which I feel very, very, very lovingly about. So I'm ready for that.
All right.
I'm already ready for it.
We simply suggest that from their end, they allow you to have the cue that they are prepared.
Okay, when you say the cue, can you just explain that a little bit for me?
Hey, sit down, close your eyes, initiate communication, period.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
We thank you and allow for one more face, one more perspective to interact with us in this way, at which time we will, in that sense, convert this interaction to Elan. Over there, female.
Yes. First, I'd like to welcome you. And secondly, I'd like to ask you to do two things. Number one, shed some light on the initial formation of the association. And number two, to thank you again for coming to us at this timing. And maybe tell us some other ways which you have met or contacted other planets when they were ready, and
Nice.
and if it was primarily in this way to small sections of the population who were ready for it, or if there's
This is one methodology, but very often, as you have elucidated, when they are ready to interact physically. Therefore, it will depend upon the focus of the consciousness, upon the planet, in the society and civilization, that will determine what degree we are then able, without interfering in the development of any civilization, to approach. In some particular instances, there will be the preparing and preparation in this way. In some instances, it will be direct with particular portions of populations of planets. And in particular, shall we say, more rarefied instances, there will be the sensing of the readiness for a mass landing, at which time we are accepted as a society by the society. So it can vary greatly depending on the amount of focus of consciousness, on the amount of that society's orientation toward separation or integration. Very briefly, you may understand that the association of worlds, which is comprised of many hundreds of societies, has been in that sense an association for many tens of thousands of your years, is very ancient in that way. You may understand that several societies initially forming this association did parallelly develop and found themselves synchronistically in a particular style of agreement and contact, at which time formal arrangements, what you may refer to as treaties in your language, however, that is not exactly the idea, for we were not warfaring civilizations. We have since, in growing, in expanding and absorbing only through the will of other civilizations, increased greatly in numbers, and as we do, this increases the amount of approaches available toward interacting and continuing to expand, if you will, the network of consciousness working in tandem that we refer to as the association. Does that answer the question?
very much. Thank you.
Therefore, allow us again to express to you that we do view you all at the same time that we view you individually as, again, different reflective surfaces of one whole mass consciousness. Therefore, from our mass consciousness of many worlds, many consciousnesses, many civilizations, to your multifaceted crystal of consciousness, we send our continued greetings and unconditional love. One moment. All right, continue sharing. We thank you for your willingness to applaud yourselves.
Okay, one more question on the deservability. If one doesn't really realize they have a deservability issue, how can then you tap into that and change that?
Are you willing at all times to acknowledge the splendor of your being? Do not hesitate, yes or no. Of your being.
Maybe not.
All right. Thank you. Very easy identification.
All right, I understand.
Why do you feel that way? Look at those ideas. Grant them validity. Grant them the right to exist. Grant them as being as true as what you wish. And then simply look at the other choices, going through the aforementioned process of stating the belief, feeling it, having the thoughts, and projecting the actions. The new actions will differ from the old based on the old limited system of belief. Therefore, you will have a new blueprint to follow.
Okay, thank you.
And to you. Shedding.
Elan.
Over there.
Hi, Elan.
Greetings.
Tirja said some very valuable things for me to hear.
Oh, what a coincidence.
Yeah, wonderful. Here's. I wanted to share that this week I've been going through a defined transformation for me. I mean, I know I've been transforming my belief system, then moving on self-love and unconditional love and feeling ecstatic. And what an explosion of coincidence. And this week I was coming home from Andrew's birthday party, and a voice in my head started saying, I had this feeling of sadness, and I said, okay, what's the sadness? How is this serving me? And as soon as I thought about what is the sadness, it went away. And I felt happy. And I said, oh, well, what do I do now? What was that? And I tried to pin it down and bring it back. And then every time I had a thought of separation or a thought of anything other than perfection and ecstasy, it would pop out of my head. And then
There is nothing so mysterious occurring. The feeling, the belief of separation has the emotion of sadness, loss, and grief.
Yeah.
When you are willing to assume that particular perspective, that will be the resultant emotionality. You have also allowed yourself to similarly see the opposite and converse.
So when I gave up trying to get back to that sadness to figure out what it was.
Well, in a sense, you transformed it by your mere willingness to express it rather than squelch it and toss it back in the box.
True.
So that is all there is to it. You need not make anything more of it unless you wish to, and then you can simply state any limiting belief and recreate that sadness.
What happens is I discovered that no matter what I fear or have the thought of, I have an answer to that.
Well, very good. You are now understanding within you that even the fears that remain are no longer consistent with your new self-definition. And you will find that many of the old ideas, when you do begin to redefine who you are, will come up so that you can now see them against the new background. And they then take on a different light. And then take on your expressing the ability to transform them and no longer need to intensely continue to recreate them.
And this is
therefore say goodbye, wave goodbye.
Yeah, and as I waved goodbye, that brought up a little bit of sadness of, oh no, I can't even feel sad anymore. And then I said,
you will always have the ability in that sense. It will never be lost. No matter how new you are, no matter how you redefine yourself, you always have and will sometimes show yourself that you always will still have the ability to recreate that old you. Never lost.
And to choose whatever I want.
Yes. Limitation will always in this plane be an option.
It seems like it's almost not an option for me anymore.
All right. Well, when individuals argue for their limitations, then they get those limitations. When they allow the releasing of those limitations, they begin to express unlimitlessness.
And I wanted to share with you that, like Tirja, I've been conversing with an energy, Lila, who is, I guess, a guide and a friend in non-physicality. And we've been exploring with a friend of mine, Tess, as well. Just ideas. And Tirja you said to Tirja that I thought was pertinent to me, that when sometimes Lila communicates, I hear the words, I think it's me. I try to make a discernment. So what you're saying, I want to clarify.
Relax, release, and allow. Trust that, again, nothing of this information is truly new to you. Therefore, concentrate on what aspect of all this information that you contain becomes relevant in a given moment, thereby utilizing your creations positively rather than invalidating them.
Thank you.
And to you.
Lon,
Yes.
in our culture, we have a scientific theory that's called the Big Bang.
Yes.
Is there any validity to that?
It is a localized effect. It is the manifestation of the cross-section of consciousness with physicality. It is not, in a sense, the beginning of the entire universe. The entire universe is multifaceted and contains many timings. It is a localized, shall we say, ignition of consciousness within a physical universe, resulting in the formation of many galaxies, but not the universe itself.
Is there any correlation between that and our separateness from integration?
Only to the degree that you assign it.
Could you talk a little bit about integration? When that other entity came out before and he spoke of integration and he was integrated with more than one being, it stirred me inside and I wondered, what's that like to be integrated with other beings?
Well, in a sense, you can understand that you are socially integrated with other beings upon your planet. This particular manifestation of that style of integration is the product of, shall we say, a different focus, a more expanded focus of consciousness, and is not part and parcel one of the definitions of the explorations one would explore within this focused physicality. You will, however, continue to expand, and when beginning to walk in a fourth density, which is still physical existence, begin to fringe, if you will, begin to connect with more of the simultaneous expression of your being. In that sense, you can understand that it will be difficult to translate to this focus that lack of focus. But the idea is that you still, although you perceive many aspects and facets to yourself, perceive yourself as a discrete individual identity. Therefore, at the same time that nothing is lost in terms of your individuality, you also are able to express multi-dimensionality, multi-consciousness.
Does that mean we integrate with ourselves?
Well, everything external to you is a reflection of you, so you simply gather bits and pieces of yourself back together, yes. But again, we remind you the paradox is that each and every individual experiences that gathering as happening unto them. And this is one of the miracles of creation and the paradoxes of mass and individuality.
That's very nice.
Oh, thank you.
But I want to ask you, what do we as crystals look like as compared to other crystals that we're just waking up? Does that mean like we're not quite so shiny as the rest of them, or
oh no.
Are we different?
Simply that you do not perceive yourself is shiny. You are always, and again, all expressions of consciousness from the perspective of all that is are equal. Therefore, it is how individuals in a reality that has individuality perceive themselves that give the effect of the dark glass that you peer through, or beginning, as you say, to clear that out.
If we were to see ourselves as shining, beautiful crystals like reflecting the sun symbolically, would that bounce back the other way? And
Only if you midwife it into your existence by being willing to shine. And this takes the form of being willing to receive, define who you are, and then act consciously in that direction. That is the shining of the soul through the physical body.
thank you, Elan.
And thank you. Therefore, allow us now to express to you that from our perspective, each and every one of you are part of us. We do not draw the same separation in general as is the tendency of your society. Therefore, in viewing you as equals, we view us as all part of the same whole, the same one homogeneous, unbroken consciousness, at the same time manifesting itself in many facets that then interact, that then allow for many, many expansive forms of self-reflection. The idea that is of advantage in separating is the separated portions can now view each other from seemingly an external aspect. So one, again, of the other major, shall we say, reasons for separation itself is to then be able to reflect back upon yourself the many aspects, the many facets that you are. Therefore, again, rather than considering yourself a collection of parts, you can now express the wholeness of your being and understand that they are but mere choices within you. And the more choices that are available, the more variety that you afford yourself within this physical reality. And you seem to like that so much. Therefore, begin to consciously choose to experience the joy of that variety, the joy of those choices, the joy of your ability to choose, which is your birthright. We thank you for your continued willingness to dream your lives and bid you a most fond and loving happy trails.